Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. All right, today I'm going to do a video on the 3-3 defense becoming a little bit more than just a gimmick, and I'll explain what I mean by that when we get going. Make sure you check out some of our partners, Dome Hats, which is the headwear company I use with Play Fast Football and the school I'm currently at. This is one of my Play Fast fitted hats, so obviously we can change the style of the hat. We can get custom embroidery on the back. We can put our logo on the front. I could change the color of the panels. I could make this a Velcro hat. I can make it a snapback hat. I can do whatever I want. They have an unbelievable online custom hat builder that you need to check out so that you can customize your own hat for your school, business, personal use, whatever you want to do. Every hat has a story. Make sure you use Dome to help you tell your hat story. Baker Sporting Goods, a local sporting goods company I use for all my players' gear. Our uniforms come from them. My coaches' gear comes from them. Anytime we do anything online with a fan store or a team store, we use Baker Sporting Goods, so make sure you check them out. Just Play Football, which is the software that I use to diagram plays. It's a more powerful presentation, a more powerful way to present your playbook and your game plans to your players with some features that they have that test the knowledge of your players in certain areas with your playbook and your game plan. I use it as my play drawing tool when I am going to do webinars or speak at clinics or do anything on my Patreon site. I always use their play drawing tool, so make sure you check out Just Play. GameStrat, sideline replay system we use at the school that I'm currently at. If you're looking for a highly reliable, highly affordable system, make sure you check out GameStrat. We love it. We've never had any issues with it. It's easy to operate. We only have one. We have one angle, but they have different packages that you can check out with different angles, multiple angles, so make sure you check out GameStrat. DifferenceUSA, which is the ultimate striking machine. We have one that we use in our weight room. If you're working on elbows in, thumbs up, how to strike, where your eyes go, coming out of your stance with your hips, doing all the things you need to become efficient at striking. You can do it without needing a partner. And a shout out to one of the guys with DifferenceUSA, Anthony Schlegel, who just got hired in town by our pro team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, to be their strength coach. So never met Anthony face to face, but I've talked to him before. Congrats to Anthony. And then HighandTight, which is it's a ball training security or a ball security training aid that it has sensors in the panels. So when you hold the ball, you have to hold it in the exact high and tight position for ball security. Have all the points of pressure. The wrist needs to be up and locked where it belongs. You have to have all the points of pressure to get the ball to beep. When you hear it beep, you're holding it in the right spot. If you do anything else and swing the ball around or don't have the proper points of pressure, you do not hear the beep. If you do not hear the beep, you are not holding the ball correctly, so make sure you check out HighandTight. All right, so when we talk about this video today, first thing I want to talk about is it is not a knock on any 3-5-3 teams or any teams that have been playing 3-3 defense. And 3-3 defense at the high school level has won state championships. It's been a very effective defense for a lot of people, excuse me, for a long time. All right, so when I throw the word gimmick out there, what I mean is there's a lot of people at the higher levels in college or maybe the NFL that always thought of that style of play a little gimmicky. All right, and the reason for that was in the original style of play as a 3-5-3 structure, you were usually playing 8-man front, single high defense, and it usually involved a lot of stunts and pressure and movement. And I can remember, back in the day when I would go to my first clinics as a younger coach or as a grad assistant in college and I would see 3-3 stack stuff, it was always about the multiple pressures and the multiple blitzes. And it almost got to a point where it seemed like in that 3-5 structure, the outside guys they used to talk about as their dogs, all right, and then, you could call the interior guys whatever you wanted. It always seemed like it was one high, 8-man front, and always geared around pressure. And back then, when I first started coaching 25 years ago, it was a lot more 21 personnel, a lot different game than we play now. And for me, it was always kind of viewed as gimmicky. Now, I never necessarily viewed it that way. There were a lot of teams in high school that were running it. They were winning a lot of games. They were winning state titles. It always felt like something because of the personnel involved. And then because of the nature of the defense, it always felt like something that was good for the high school level. All right, I had just never really studied it, never got involved with it until later on in my career. And, one of the things with the stack look, obviously the movement, okay, and being different than other defenses, that was obviously the thing that everybody kind of clung to with that defense. And then gradually more and more, you started to see more and more teams, whether it be Rocky Long or Joe Lee Dunn or some of the early 3-3 guys that were playing it more and more as a base structure, you started to see it gaining a little more momentum at the college level. Then you started to really see it gaining momentum as almost a different pressure package, or a different look versus spread teams. You started to see people employing it more versus spread teams, and you started to see it being used more as a pressure look because it was very good at doing that. But as the game evolved, what started to happen was, much like the Virginia Techs of the world and the older 4-4 defenses, the evolution started to go into more safety structures. So this 3-5-3 actually became more of a 3-3-5. And it got into a deal where you are now playing it with 5 DBs and 3 safeties. Okay, so then when it morphed into that look, when the game started to change a little bit, all right, and the game became more of a spread 10 personnel game, the 3-3 stack was now a little bit more conducive to play versus those spread teams, because with the personnel you were putting on the field, you could now match the 10 personnel or the spread tempo teams with your personnel on the field, okay? And then the biggest thing to me that I think started taking light more and more was the fact that the 6-man box, and if you go back and study some of the original TCU stuff back in the day, one of the reasons Gary Patterson liked it so much was that box they used to call their home base. They tried very rarely to get away from their home base. That 6-man box was what they lived in the 4-2-5, right? Not the 3-3 structure, Gary Patterson 4-2-5 guy. So that 4-2 6-man box and their run fits out of that box was something that they really tried their best to stay in, until the evolution of offenses got them to get out of it in certain sets and got them to bump to a 4-1 box or to bump almost to a 4-3 box for certain sets. So even that defense, even the 4-2-5 started to morph into some different things when they couldn't just keep the static picture of the box the same. And to me, that's where the 3-3 really took off. The idea that you could fit a 6-man box, very similar to the 4-2-5 6-man box. All right, when the mic became more of a plugger downhill that really almost replaced the 3 technique in a way in the 4-2-5, you started to find out that you could play that structure of defense and you could actually fit runs very similar to the way you were fitting runs in the 4-2-5, which now made it a little bit easier to play without so much movement and pressure and exotic looks. You could actually play it as a base structure. And then the fact that you were playing 3 safeties allowed you to do some things in coverage that kind of matched up a little bit. All right? And then the evolution from there has now gone to the Iowa State type defenses and the things that they're doing, the 3 safety type defenses that you're seeing more and more versus air raid and spread teams. All right? Because what they started figuring out was, all right, and I've talked about this on other videos, the personnel was probably more important than the actual structure. So when you started looking at the 3-3 personnel, everybody right away thinks about in terms of 3-3 box, 3-3 stack look, right? The 3-3 stack defense. Well, what some of these teams started finding out with the evolution, and when I say evolution, I mean actually maybe going back to old school 50 front teams and things people used to do, the evolution of playing the 4-eye and being able to now play a guy potentially in a 4-eye, so now that you could bump out, all right, one of the backers that was in the box, and now you've lost that quasi 3-3 stack look, but you're still playing the 3-3 defense, right? So when you look at the personnel, now the 3-3-5 personnel is becoming more and more a way to play, all right, defense against some of the teams that we're seeing, and you're actually able to play base defense that way now. All right, so when you watch the Iowa States or some of the teams that are doing it now in college, what you're going to see is you're going to see a broken stack a bunch of times. You're going to see, all right, a defense where the 3-3 look gets broken up and now it looks more like a 3-1 box. You're going to see some things, all right, where it's going to look like a 3-2 box. So you're going to see some looks here, all right, where you're going to see some different fronts, and now this might look like a 3-2 box. All right, but the bottom line is what they are doing is they are taking a defensive structure and a personnel group and they are morphing it into something that can become more of an every down defense. Okay, so it's no longer, to me, it's no longer viewed as a gimmick style defense. It is now being morphed into an every down defense. Now, the thing you have to do after playing this defense, okay, with split field coverage. So again, we went away from the old adage of saying that the 3-5-3 had to be played like that. All right, we went completely away from that and decided that we were going to play the 3-3 stack defense, all right, and we were going to play it with our personnel the way we played our 4-2-5 stuff, and we're going to move the free safety, and he's going to travel, all right, and we're going to line up the formations, and we're going to do all the things that we want to do while maintaining the integrity of the 3-3 box. And we had 2 or 3 really good years in it. We were better against the run than we had been the past couple years in our 4-2-5. It was different than people thought. We weren't moving every down, so our kids weren't running into and out of plays. We moved when we wanted to move, okay, but we played the 3-3 box with some slight movement. Now, before all the tight front started really picking up steam, we would occasionally walk a stack guy out if we needed to. All right, so if this was a 2x2 set and we needed to bump a guy out, we'd bump a guy out. Just like the old 4-2-5 stuff, if the open B-gap gave us an issue, we would give this end the ability to either B-gap charge or possibly 2-gap to take some of the pressure off that, all right, ram linebacker for us, that right side stack linebacker. So we started to morph it into some different things. All right, if you gave us 21 personnel, we actually looked very similar to the old school 3-3 stack, except on the weak side, if you gave us 21 personnel, we were stacked in the box, so we still played the stack look. We were quarters to the front side with with one of our, quote-unquote, that old-fashioned dog as a D-gap player, as a force player. Our free safety was there, but then on the backside, we kind of evolved like everything else in the game and started to evolve where this safety could be a guy that could be up or back, and we weren't in that static 3-5-3 look. And we played some really good defense. We didn't move. This stack defense fit runs off of blocks in front of them. We didn't slant and angle every play. We didn't 5-man pressure every play. Yes, we did slant and angle. Yes, we did 5-man pressure. Yes, we did 6-man pressure. But we didn't do it every down. All right, we didn't do it, to me, again, the way I used to see the 3-5-3 teams doing it, where there was movement every single down. Whether they were adding a fourth, slanting an angle, pinching the front, whatever they were doing, there seemed to be movement every down. And for me, that just seemed more hit or miss, feast or fathom. All right, and the risk-reward of that defense to me was never enough to want to play it. When I started seeing teams playing the 3-3 box, all right, more as a 3 safety structure and more as a split field coverage or a split field principle that I wanted to play, that's when I decided to get a little bit more involved with the 3-3. And now what it's come to is it's come to a defense that is now morphing to where, all right, with the 3 safety structure, you're now starting to see the box change. You're getting the 3-1 box. All right, so like I drew up before, okay, you're getting 4 eyes in a tight front and you're getting walked out backers, you're getting a 3-1 box. If they give you a 2 receiver side, okay, you're starting to get some different fronts where maybe it's traditional on the backside, 4 eye on the front side, backers kick to a 3-2 look. So it's morphing itself into a defense that can be played versus everything that it's seeing on the field. All right, there's still matchups involved, there's still heavy personnel groups involved, but it's morphing itself into a defense that can be played versus everything on the field. And what it's becoming more and more about now is the personnel more than the structure. So if we sat down and said, hey, it's not the same as the old 3-3 stack every down, yes, you are correct. Are there not going to be times where you watch Iowa State and it looks like this? There's certainly going to be times where they're in the old-fashioned stack look. All right, and all the teams that are playing it in college, there's going to be a lot of times when they're in that look. But the evolution of the game and the fact that we're now looking at more positionless players or hybrid players, guys that can play more roles, guys that can be closer to the ball but also back, guys that can rush but also cover, you know, maybe a slot or a tight end. We're starting to find more and more of those guys in the game, so the game is becoming more about the personnel. And teams are finding that to defend some of these spread looks, they're better off playing with the 3-3 personnel and then morphing the 3-3 stack defense into some other principles, so it looks like a 3-4 at times. There's times where it probably looks like a 4-2 or a 4-3. They're doing a lot of things with the personnel, and they're going out to recruit that personnel, and they're finding the kids that can do those things so that they make the defense fit into more of an every down package. All right, so, you know, to say that it was a gimmick, all right, that's just kind of a word that I use to say that people always viewed it as something a little bit more outlandish that they didn't like. It was 3-5-3 in nature. It was a lot of movement. It was a lot of one high. Well, now the way the game's evolved and defenses and defensive coaches keep getting smarter, they're finding out that the 3-3-5 personnel group is a pretty good group to play. Yes, you can still play the stack looks, but if you have the ability to break the stack up with some different fronts and take some gaps away so that you can bump some linebackers out, now you're getting into more of the exotic, lighter box defenses, you know, covering inside runs with fewer players and making the ball go side to side, having more back-end players that can run around and get to the ball. So more often than not, when you see the 3-3 structure, it's not your old school 3-5-3, it's not your old school static 3-3 box, but you will see a bunch of looks where it looks like a 3-3 box. There's a couple teams out there that are still playing it. I believe in some of the last year or so when I looked at Baylor doing some things, they were playing it one high. I believe that Temple was playing a little bit of it one high. All right, I've watched Cincinnati do some things with Marcus Freeman, who's now at Notre Dame, and they were, you know, a lot more one high-ish in nature with their stack look. So teams have found a way to play that personnel group, play the 3-3 stack theory, but be multiple enough in that theory to break it up to look like different things, which is what all good defenses do. All right, all good over-front teams have the ability to play under. They have the ability to give you different looks. All right, all good old-fashioned 50 teams had the ability to play you in Okie, and then the ability to play you in either tight and bear and other things. All great defenses had the ability to play you and be a little bit more multiple. And now in today's game, the more multiple you can be with those players on the field, you can handle the multiple looks that the offense is giving you. All right, so it's kind of gone out the window as quote-unquote that, you know, old-fashioned gimmick high school defense. It's got to be one high. It's got to be 3-5-3. Now it's morphing itself into a great package that can be played as a base. It's great for spread. You can get more speed on the field, and you're starting to see more and more teams at the higher levels playing that personnel group. Whether or not you see the exact 3-3 box that everybody originally fell in love with back in the day because it is so different, whether or not you saw that stacked look that gave offensive lines trouble with some things because of the nature of the gaps and the stacks, whether or not you see that every down is irrelevant. You're still seeing the 3-3-5 structure, all right, more than the 3-5-3 just because of the personnel, but you're still seeing that structure. You're seeing that structure morph into different things. You're seeing that structure evolve to become an every down defense, and I think it's great for the game of football. I think it's great for defensive football. I think it's, you know, it's caught a lot of offensive people off guard with some things, and obviously eventually they'll probably catch up. But I think it's great that the game can be played different ways. I think it's great that Iowa State and Tulsa and Cincy and a lot of other schools are having some success in that defense. And guys like Rocky Long have had success on the West Coast in that defense for a long time. So I think it's great because it keeps the game fresh, keeps the game moving, it keeps offenses on their toes. And adaptation, all right, is always at the heart of evolution. So anytime you've got to adapt things to adjust to the other side of the ball, that's where the new evolutions come about. So, you know, I think it can become more of an every down structure. We played it 2 or 3 years as an every down defense with split field coverage and absolutely loved it. Whether or not we have the personnel to continue doing it or whether or not it's in our best interest to continue doing it, it's not because of the results. We had really good results with it and really good results against the run game. So if you're interested in check out some 3 high safety stuff, some 3-3 structure stuff, even if you're an old 3-4 guy or a 4-3 guy or whatever you are, the more you study, the better you get, the more knowledge you have. You never know when you might need it one day. If you're an offensive guy, you study it to understand what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it because that 3-3 structure has changed from where it was 30, 40 years ago, and it's evolving, so you're going to want to need to check it out. All right, as always, I appreciate everything you guys do for Play Fast Football. Turn your notifications on. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. Leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you like the comment or don't like the content. Leave a comment. I respond to every comment that I can see on my end. If it comes through on my end and it's not spammed or filtered out for whatever reason, if I see it, I try to respond, and I love interacting with all of our fans out there. If you catch this video today before 2 o'clock, If you go to the App Store and download the Relevant app, RELEVNT, I'm going to be doing a live chat. It's a live group chat app that is basically like a live podcast, if you want to look at it that way. I'm going to be interviewing Tom McManus, a former linebacker at Boston College and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to be interviewing him today at 2 o'clock. If you download that app and you go to the Play Fast Football vibe, all right, that's the vibe that I've created. I'll be interviewing Tom McManus, so make sure you check it out. All right, remember, guys, you won't play well until you play fast. Thanks for everything you do for me. See you next time.